Welcome to the most important week of the year for the podcast industry. Welcome to Podcast Movement 2025.
Hello. Welcome. Thank you all so much for being here. We're so excited to have you here with us today, and thank you for sticking around. We know the last session has probably been a long day. You've probably learned a lot of really exciting things. Before we get started and kick off, I'm going to introduce us in just a sec. We'll introduce ourselves in just a second, but I want to get a pulse check here. Who currently has a podcast by a show of hands? Amazing. Who here in the room is a producer? Ooh, okay, we got some. I love it. Sounds good. Who here needs a better system for their podcast or their agency? Amazing. Sounds good. Everyone say aye. And who here is not going to raise their hand no matter what I say today? There's always one in the background. In any case, thank you all so much for being here with us today. We are co-founders of Northflow. We're the Northflow team, and we're going to talk a little bit about systems and building better systems today. And a little bit about Northflow just before we start. We are a software that helps creators and agencies and podcasters plan their episodes, track their tasks, have a better guest management workflow, and so much more. And so it keeps everything all in one place. So I'm really excited to be here with you all today. Do we want to introduce ourselves really quick? I'm going to let you each introduce yourselves. Go ahead. You go first.
Hello, y'all. My name is Tally Mallow. I'm one of the co-founders of Northflow. I'm the Chief Experience Officer, so I'm the person that talks to everyone that comes in. I answer questions, do onboarding. And I'm also the co-host of Behind the Workflow, which is our podcast Simona and I host.
That's right. Go ahead, Fran.
All right. So hello, everybody. My name is Fran Mello. I am the CEO. I've been building products for as long as I can remember. And one of the things that drove me into the podcast industry is that in every single product I've ever worked on, creating content was always a problem, was always a difficult thing to do. And so that was an obvious problem for me to tackle right after my past experience in my past job. So here I am.
Hey guys, I'm Neto. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Northflow. I've been running agency on the software development side for as long as I can remember, and so I'm here to take all the technology side on Northflow, grab the feedbacks from all the users and turn that into reality.
Hey everyone. So I'm Daniel. I am a software engineer with over 5 years of professional experience. And yeah, I have been coding since I was 15. So it's been over 8 years now. And yeah, basically I have been building like high impact web applications. I have worked across many industries. And right now I'm helping the guys to build Northflow.
That's right. And it's amazing. And we have to also say, too, that Daniel actually joined us all the way from Brazil. He flew all the way here to join us today for our talks. That's so exciting. Very, very exciting. We're so happy to have him here with us today. Yeah. And my name is Simona. I'm going to moderate our panel today. And I am our marketing person, our CMO. I like to do all things marketing, podcasting, and I like to talk. So if you have questions, find us after this talk. We will open it up to questions, though. Speaking of questions, I'm going to throw you my first question today, Tally. And it's, what's the biggest workflow bottleneck that you see for podcasters or agencies, and how do they solve it?
So for the past about a year and a half or so, we've been talking to all sorts of creators, agency owners, and there are two things that I think it's the most common, which would be communication all over the place, like using emails, Instagram, all of that. And also their files between emails and Google Drive and even like text messages. Mm-hmm. So that's like one of the main bottlenecks of, just overall like the workflows of people that I've talked to.
I really like that. And I actually wanted to throw it back to the audience really quick, too. Do you guys ever find that it's a challenge keeping track of, this person's recording link, this is where you have to go to download this podcast episode, and so on, because that's a huge thing that we see day in and day out. And one of the biggest reasons why we do what we do, because it's centralizing that place and that location. Because when you centralize your work, it's such a key part, because when you are in chaos, is how we like to call it. When you're in chaos, that's when you create even more chaos within your workflow. So the more streamlined that you can get, the more centralized that you can get, the overall better experience that you're going to have within your agency, within your team, within your own self as a creator as well, and with anyone else that you work with. So client communications, client experience is a really important thing, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Go ahead.
Can I add on to that?
Please, yeah.
We actually spoke to over 100 folks that are managing podcasts all over the world. And one of the problems that always came up was the fact that assets were all over the place. They were always looking for different ways to share assets. Not only the fact that they had to upload in one place, copy the link, share with the client would provide a feedback, and then the feedback would come in various different places. They would update the file and then send the file again. And so that was the number one thing we thought would be important for us to solve. And we understood that it wasn't just about where you host your file, but also how do you share that file and how do you get feedback specifically on that file. And so that's one of the things we tackled. But we also noticed that a lot of people tried many different ways in terms of connecting their files into a system. But the problem that came to our attention was the fact that even though they had, let's say, Notion or they had Google Drive, they would still have to use something like WeTransfer when the files were too big. And then that link would expire, so they would have to go back, upload the file again. And so file management became one of the big things that we needed to tackle right away.
You said Notion and I got anxiety. I don't like it.
Can I add something too?
Yes, please go ahead.
Another thing that we found out is that whenever if you are a single creator and you're managing multiple podcasts is one thing. Sometimes you have your own mess on your own chaos, and you are okay dealing with that. But sometimes if you have a team like 2-3 people, it's really hard to follow up. So using some of these tools, they're not going to give you alerts when someone finishes a task or when someone sends something to you. You have to find out where it is. This is another problem that we found with a lot of people that we talk to.
Oh, 100%. And it's actually a problem that I saw within my agency. So in addition to Northflow, I run a production agency, but in my agency itself, like my chaos was great for my own self and it worked because I worked it. But when you start bringing people in, it turns really chaotic. And it was so ironic because clients would tell me all the time, like, wow, you're so organized. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I was like, thank you so much. And it was fine. And it works until it doesn't work. And so sometimes it can never, sometimes it just doesn't feel painful enough to do something about it. But once you have a system that actually works for you, that you set up and that you create in the exact way that you want to, templated exactly how your brain works, that's where the magic is, right? So, Fran, let's talk a little bit about what a workflow looks like when it's set up for ROI and not just tasks, not just checking boxes.
Yeah, I think the number one word there would be scalability. So the question to ask yourself is your workflow easily something that you can easily replicate with multiple people? And I say this because we spoke with a lot of people. One of the folks we talked to, this lady had Notion, and she used Notion with a lot of integrations, Zapier, Google Calendar, Google Forms, and all of those things would talk to each other. She would use Zapier so that when the client filled out the form, it would trigger Zapier. Zapier would do something else into Notion that would trigger something else on Calendly. And the problem we found is that it was so complex, and the experience for the guest or for the client at the end of the day was just horrible. And so when she joined Northflow, our main goal was to try to figure out how can we get all those things and turn that into one smooth workflow. So this way, even the guests or the clients would be able to see things without actually having to go back and forth, sending 1,000 messages and so forth. So I think the best way to answer this question is it easy to replicate? Is it easy to make changes to it in a way that it's not just to maintain it so it works, but in a way to improve it? And I say this because when you use Notion and you use a lot of relational database and you connect those things, the problem becomes that now it's something that you have to maintain, and it's going to take a lot of work for you to maintain that thing, and then it becomes a problem. In fact, I was just reading an article from Forbes that talked about agencies that are managing multiple podcasts. They spent around 50% of their time managing tools. And so the challenge for us was, how do we take the tools out of the way and just make the tool do the work? And so in her scenario, she was doing all those things, trying to connect all those things and creating a horrible experience not only for her but also for her clients. For us was mostly about how do we make those tools work together right out of the box, make it so it's easy for her to scale. But instead of doing maintenance, she can then adjust. Because I think it's one big mistake, Simona, that people make is to think that once you build a workflow, that's what's going to work forever. You don't have to touch it ever again. But that's not true. You can make small adjustments to it so that it works better. The problem becomes when you have to maintain it so it works. Those are different things. Improvements, things work, you're just adding on a new thing that's going to make it work better. And maintenance is things just break all the time and you have to go fix it. So if I had to answer this question with one word, would be, is it scalable? Is it something that you can bring people in and you can make small adjustments without breaking everything else?
That's a fantastic answer. And I will add to, when I first started my agency, part of why everyone would always say, oh, it's so organized, it's so great, is because I used Trello at the time. And it worked at the time for what it was. But like you just said, after that point, no, it wasn't being managed. There was nothing being updated. There was nothing that was continuously being grown, right? And the product itself wasn't really meant for what I was doing and what I was creating it for. So it's like now you have the added stress of like keeping all of this stuff updated, keep making sure all of these things work. If an automation breaks, then you got to figure out how to fix it. And when you're busy, when you're producing podcasts and when you're doing shows, even just one show, let alone, multiple shows, you don't have time, Go ahead, Neto.
We talked with one lady that she managed 5 different podcast shows, and for each one of the show that she managed, she used completely different tools. So for one,
oh, wow,
it was like Trello and then Google Docs, and for another one is Notion and Google Docs and Calendly. And I was like, you don't realize that it's not about the amount of tools, but the more tools that you add to your flow, it's going to become your bottleneck eventually. So if you can manage 5 shows just by yourself with all those tools and different stuff, are you going to be able to manage 10, 15? That's your scalability. That's where you're going to start making money. So if you can't, that's a problem. You cannot scale. So you're going to have to bring more people in, and more people is going to have to adjust to your broken workflow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other thing is she also used one spreadsheet for each client with her production schedule. And so she would have to maintain those things and share files from different places. So she would share a spreadsheet, and she would with the production schedule. That she would have something else that was basically a CRM for guests, and then she would share the files, the editing files, and so forth. And so it's not that it becomes a mess, like Neto said. It's mostly that it becomes a bottleneck, and it's silently eating up your profits because you're not able to actually take on the next step of your business. And then now you're just managing tools and spending time actually doing things that can be done automatically, like manually sending things to clients, as opposed to letting the tool do that for you, getting the feedback, putting that in a concise way that you can then work on.
And I have one thing to
Yeah,
add.
please.
So whenever I'm onboarding people, I got this question a few times, like, well, but my client wants to use this. I want to use this. And I just kind of go with what they're saying. And I usually ask them, like, well, but they're coming to you because you're the professional. Like, you have your standards. Like, you know exactly what you're doing. So they should be able to trust you to actually tell them, like, this is what we're going to be using, if you're using Trello or Asana, whatever you're using, or Northflow. But anyways, whatever you're using, you have to be the one that's like setting the standards for them and bringing them into your workflow and not having to create additional steps on your day-to-day to be able to accommodate them.
100%. Does anyone else want to add anything else? Is there such...
Yeah, I think the last thing to mention on this is that most of the tools that we have explored, and we've used those tools ourselves, either to produce content for ourselves or to manage products, building software and so forth. And for us, building software, it makes perfect sense. Most of these tools that we've used, especially Notion or ClickUp, and there's so many other that are perfect for product management. But what we found is that it becomes a duct taping solution for content management, for podcast production. And so that's been the challenge for us. How do we turn that into a flow that's easy to replicate, easy to scale, and in a way that you not only work yourself on that, but you can also add more shows and or add more people to it.
100%. Let's shift to the automation side a little bit really quick, Neto. This one's for you. So when should you automate something versus keeping it manual?
Okay, I think um, the process that I have is like, if you have to do something like once a week, that's already worth automating. So to me, is like automate as much as possible. We are in the era of AI agents, so let's use this technology in our favor and to bring the speed, to bring like agility on tasks and finishing stuff. But one thing that I don't like automating is your tone of voice, your ideas. I mean, you can grab ideas from ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever, but there's a reason why audience will follow someone and listen to their podcasts. And the reason is because they connect with you. They like listening to your ideas. They like listening to what you bring to the table. Now, if they feel that's becoming robotic or like everything you're bringing is from AI, eventually you're going to start losing audience because they can go straight to AI and ask what they need to. So they're listening to you because they want to hear what you have to bring to the table, and that's one thing that I don't like like automation to be involved with.
I want to add to this also too, because as an agency owner and as a podcaster, so in addition to our Behind the Workflow podcast, I have 2 other podcasts that I do. And one thing that I was telling you this earlier today is that because I had so many things in the past, because I had so many things that I was trying to do and manage, and at the time my workflow and the system and the process was so broken, it was very difficult to stay in the creative flow. So when we think about, we have podcast production, we have our episodes, we have all the creative that we want to do, how do we get inspired? How do we get excited to continue creating our podcast episodes week over week, day over day, month over month, year over year, right? And so I kept finding myself in this spot of like, wow, I've run out of ideas. I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what show or like how to produce this or anything. But then I would go on to ChatGPT and I would try and get different ideas, topic ideas for my podcast. And like, that's fine. But if I look at my analytics and the data, the episodes that I did that were but that were created with the more AI stuff, AI talking points and all that, they actually performed worse than the content that I just came up with by myself. Would you go figure that? And so anyways, I thought that was really interesting. So then when you give yourself space to let the workflow take care of itself, and then you don't have to worry about the how and the to-dos and all of that, then you sit in creativity, and then you actually get to create content that you love to create. And I think that's such a powerful place to create from. So just as a workflow tip for you, that sometimes even if it feels like it's working and it's fine, maybe it's not working to its full potential, and you could actually be doing even more in your day-to-day by being able to take some of the things, automating the things that you don't want to do, and turning those things, especially repeat tasks. That's like my least favorite thing, to remember what I have to do every day. Like, forget it. Tell me what I need to do and just bring it up on the screen for me. Go ahead, Fran.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to this. I think the key takeaway here is try to automate the things that are repetitive and the things that don't require your approval every time. That's the biggest thing, because most of the AI tools that are coming out, they're focused on creating things. And for me, that's weird, because we're taking away the thing that creators like to do, which is create, but we're keeping the boring stuff, which is distribution, analytics, insights. We're leaving those things with the creator and taking away the stuff that they are meant to be doing, which is creating. And so the idea here is, how do we create a process where the boring stuff, which is instead of just looking at a bunch of data and not know what to do with it, having actual insight, and that can be automated with AI, and that's an intelligent way to do it. And then having those things such as now distributing things, figuring out the best time to post those things, researching a guest, researching a subject. Those things can be automated, but the actual creation, I think it's always important to still be a task that you still want to go through and do yourself.
100%. Okay, this one's for you. Are you ready, Daniel?
Yeah, ready. Born ready.
Okay, so my question for you is, what is the cost of messy systems or unclear logic in podcast production workflows? I know the team will have additional thoughts, but please go first.
That's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of things to add to it, but I think the first one is almost obviously, right? Time waste. Okay. If you have like repeated tasks, you're going to spend a lot of time on it. It will increase your cost as well. So time waste is the first. I believe like the second one would be like team misalignment, because if you don't have a system that works, nobody knows what to do, who wants what, right? And it also creates frustration inside the team, and it can increase the churn rate, right? So it's also important, this one. And I believe like scalability. We are talking about scalability. If it is hard to manage 2 shows, imagine with 10 plus,
Yeah.
it becomes a nightmare,
Yeah.
right? So, and also, I believe like the cognitive load, because the frustration increase because you have to waste energy doing the thing that you don't want to do. You as a creator, you want to create, right? But if you have to spend time doing those boring things, it also like increase the chances of the burnout. So yeah.
Exactly. Go ahead,
Can
Neto.
I add to that?
Yeah.
So one thing that a lot of people talk to us is like sometimes when we are onboarding, they come to us and ask, can we export our data back in case we want to cancel our account? And this is a big thing because whenever you use multiple tools to manage your show, you're spreading your data across multiple tools. And if you ever find a process that let's say you want to cancel Trello, but you want to export all the tasks that you did there and all the assets, that's going to become a nightmare for you to do. So that's another thing that it's really painful, and you have to take that into consideration.
Absolutely. Does anyone want to add anything else? Good? We're complete? Amazing. Okay, sounds good. So we thought that it would be really interesting just to kind of share with you 3 different ways that we've seen workflows be optimized. And then we have one final thought for you, then we're going to open it up to questions. But so it's kind of like real world examples that we've seen taking broken systems and then using them or creating them into more sustainable systems. So the first one is when we onboard new users, and maybe Tal, if you want to hop in here as well. When we onboard new users, we're transitioning their production schedule. That's one of the very first things that we're doing from all of the spreadsheets into a planning tool. And the reason why this is really a good thing to do is because it helps you stay organized, right? And it helps you stay organized with everything right from the beginning. So which episodes are going out when, what it is that you're creating, why you're creating it, and so on. You want to add to this one?
Yeah, and we've seen different ways that people do it. Some people do it by season, some do it by month. And just having that full view of what's going out when, it just, again, like Daniel said, it takes that overload. You don't have to be thinking about it. It's all there.
Exactly. And so you can also take your whole process and your whole system and you can systematize it into one spot where you can find all of your links in one place, where you can find all of your things in one spot. So you click on something once and you don't have to go and search for it, all of your logins, all of your, whatever it is that you're looking for. Everything is just there and it's in one spot. Even using my agency as an example, I always like using my agency as an example because it's my best use case. But being able to set up my own production schedules right off the bat, helping to be able to plan what episodes are going out and when, okay? But not just that. Then I can take a look and I can see when is each episode going out? But then further than that, I can break it down even more and plan ahead. Now I can plan, months and weeks in advance. And what's great about that is because the more I can plan in advance, now the more I can record in advance, the more I can edit in advance, and the more I can get all of my marketing organized and done and ready to go in advance. So that way you're not scrambling at the end of the day, because I'm sure you may relate to this. If you're creating content, you spend so much time prepping your episodes that oftentimes when you get to the marketing side of it, it just falls flat because you don't have any more time left. You're tired. You've just done this whole thing, this whole process, and then you just kind of like let the ball drop there. So anyways, that's two different ways, but I'm curious. I'm looking at time and I want to add one more thing in, but if you want to add to this question, you totally can. And then I want to make sure we answer some of your questions as well. We're good?
I would just add one thing. I think one big takeaway is this. How do you know it's about time for you to kind of consider changing your workflow, or you're noticing something that it's probably time for you to consider using different tools or adding a different tool or removing tools. And I think the way, because like we spoke to a person that had over 20 podcasts that she was managing, and all the process and systems, they were all inside her head. And she would bring in people, she would sit down with them and kind of like go over it 100 times until they were able to get it going. And I think one of the biggest red flags for you to figure out, to say, well, this is the time for me to go ahead and figure out a better way to do this, would be if you're being reactive to deadlines. If you see that you're just being reactive the whole time and you're kind of not behind the deadline, but you see that the time is running out and you have to react to it all the time, if this is happening often, that's probably a sign that's the time for you to look into improving your workflow and coming up with better tools.
100%. Okay, if we can do like really rapid fire, I want to ask you guys, what is one thing a podcaster or agency owner can do this week to make their workflow more scalable or efficient?
Create a template of every single step.
Okay.
Every single step.
Love it.
Well, Tally literally just stole mine. So yeah, templatizing things and connecting things and using things that work right out of the box and not having a lot of things that can break in between.
Maybe try to create a map of everything that you do, on like from beginning to the end of like creating a new episode or creating a new show, and figure out where are the time wasters.
That's a good one.
I believe like learning how to use AI properly to automate stuff. I mean, AI is out there. We gotta use it. We gotta, take this opportunity and make our life easier.
I love that. And if I were to add one, I would add in production schedule. I think the team hears me say production schedule like 17,000 times a day. I'm like, but the production schedule. Anyway, so I would say create a production schedule. Know what it is that you're creating, what's going out and when. We have about 4 minutes left. We wanted to leave time for you to ask questions. I know I did see some hands going up even while we were talking. So I think
Hi, great talk. I was really feeling convicted every single time you said spreadsheet or you said people or system in your head. So the quick question is, we do have multiple podcasts and we are now onboarding people who have not learned any system yet. So my question to you is, what do you do to help new people when you have a system that's worked, but then you're considering a new tool? Mm-hmm. Do you onboard them with a brand new thing that you're all learning together, or do you add elements in of what has worked before?
You want to take this one, Tyler?
Yeah, great question, by the way. We right now, the way we're doing it, we're actually sitting down with every single person that's using the platform and helping them bring their system into Northflow for 2 reasons. So this way we can learn all the best practices implemented in a way that's out of the box on Northflow. And 2, so this way we can actually help them improve the process based on all the folks we talked to in the past. So since we're being kind of the hub of all this data that we're gathering, we're the ones that are able to actually suggest better ways to implement the workflow. So we kind of go both ways, and when we see a better way to do something, we go back into the lab and implement it into Northflow so that it works right out of the box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would also say too, like, it's easier to onboard someone into something that's new that you become familiar with. It's easier to do it something new from right at the beginning, right at the start, than to teach them one whole way and then to switch it and then teach them another whole way. You know what I mean? So I would definitely say if you have the opportunity to, start fresh from the beginning for sure. We have time for a couple more questions, but I will say, I want to point out really quick here, our QR code, if you want to scan it, it leads you to 3 different things. The first one is it's going to lead you to a free download that we have where you can steal our system, our whole process for auditing your entire workflow. The second one is we're having an online event in September that we would love. It's a virtual event. We would love for you to attend. It's free. And then the third one is come and join us. Try out Northflow. You get 30-day trial by scanning this QR code. It's a podcast movement special, so please feel free to scan the QR code, okay? Go ahead.
My question was going to be, do you actually have a visual of a representation? But I believe you guys said that it's the 3
yeah.
In the framework, is that included?
A representation of
a visual of what an actual workflow looks like.
Yes.
Like a demo.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And then if you have any other like questions about workflows or how to optimize yours or anything, either of us, like any of us, are always happy to hop on a call and take a look and see if there's ways that it can be optimized anytime you want. But that's the best way to get in contact with us through there. Do we have any other questions? It's 111 Make-A-Wish. I had to. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you all very, very, very much. We appreciate it. We will still be here
Very
if you
much.
do have questions.
Thank
Feel
you,
free to come
everybody.
and ask us. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.